Today I'm going to work on the Phase 2 semantic representation for verse 8 of 2 Kings chapter 5. Before I leave the Phase 1, I want to mention one more thing. So here I used the literal man of God. There are some decisions about that. For right now, I'm just going to write it out that way. I noticed that the translation for translators used prophet, and in the key biblical terms it said that it probably means prophet. And in the translator's handbook, it suggests writing it out as man of God, but it says it's acceptable to delete it, especially if this phrase causes unnaturalness in the receptor language. Well, for now, I'm just going to leave it that way. We could either make a decision later to change that to prophet, or we could have that a language by language decision where they would make a substitution for a particular language. Okay, at any rate, let's work on the phase 2. So first of all, I'm going to copy this text. Now I'm going to go to TBTA, and I'm going to click on Utilities. That's the third menu item up at the top, and Proposition Analysis. Okay, I have it on 2 Kings 5:7, so I just click Next Verse. I click on the Edit Text button that's over toward the right side of the screen for these buttons. Paste in that text. Click OK. Okay, it doesn't like it because it says the brackets don't match up. So I'm going to go back to, since I can't see all the text here easily, I'm going to go back to the Word document. Okay, let's see what the problem is. Here we have closed brackets. Here we do also. Then Elijah sent a message to the king. That message said, usually it's the first sentence of a quote. You, king, not must tear the clothes of you, but that's closed. Send this man to me, then that man will know that a person who tells God's messages to people is in Israel. Okay, so he will know, and then we have a patient proposition starting to say what he knows, and that should extend all the way to the end of this sentence. So I need to put a right bracket here at the end after is in Israel. Save that. Copy the new text. Go back to TBTA, edit text, paste, click OK. Okay, so that time it worked. Now I'm going to click on Analyze. So you see the hourglass, and it's working through all kinds of rules, and as we've seen, sometimes it works great and sometimes it doesn't. Okay, I'm going to click on Save Analysis. Okay, it doesn't say there's any problems. That's a good sign. Let's look at that one place that I was concerned about. Okay, so in this sentence, that message said. Okay, so you can see that we have the wrong version of say. It says direct speech. So the message didn't say anything, literally. So we're going to have to, I'm going to click on senses, click on that word say, and then we're going to go select version E. A book or a text says something. As I mentioned last time, it's not clear that it was written down, but might be just oral, but that's the best choice, I think, here, unless we add another version. And then we wouldn't know really whether it was verbal or written down. So this proposition, what it says is a patient proposition. That's correct because the verb say has an obligatory patient proposition. Okay, then there's a quote beginning. Okay, this should be second person king, and that's what we see. If you hover the mouse over the line immediately below king, you see the features. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, ninth line there says second person. The fifth or fourth feature is singular. Routine, that's fine. Tear, now this is where we're going to get into these interesting features. So I'm going to click on features. Oh, but let's make sure it's the right tear, to tear something. Okay, I'm going to click on the features button down in the bottom right, and I'm going to click on tear. Okay, it says must obligation in the third column, but I want negative. And okay, I'm going to click negative polarity in the fifth columns because I want it to come out you do not need to, you do not have to, or you did not have to. I guess maybe that would be better. So if I click on discourse, so I'm going to click on discourse for the time aspect under verb features. Could be you did not need to tear the clothes of you. Okay. In this sentence, in the speech of the king, that's the first time that close is mentioned. So I'm going to click on that and make that frame inferable. Those are the clothes owned by the king. So we know which clothes they are. And notice this leftover thing not. It didn't know what to do with that. I thought that might happen. It didn't like the way I wrote it. Maybe I should have written it like I wanted it to come out in English. You did not have to. Okay, I'm going to save, and just for kicks, let's click generate and see how it does, because that could give us some clues about things that are wrong. So we're in the analyzer language. This is what we need to use for the automatic analysis that the analyzer does. And if you're in the wrong language, you can go to utilities and set language and choose the analyzer. Okay, we wait, we wait, we wait. Okay, Elisha, who was God's man, we'd rather it be the man of God, but that's the way it came out unless we change it. I don't know, it might be in English, it might come out man of God, I think it does. Heard that king of Israel tore his clothes. Then Elisha sent a message to that king. That message said, you had to tear your clothes. Okay, now we made that negative. So you might wonder, why did it come out without the negative? And that's because we've never used this combination in the analyzer. It might come out right in English. That'd be interesting to see, and we can check that. But this is something that we would have to bring to Todd's attention if in English it comes out this way, because obviously it's the totally opposite meaning that we wanted. Send the man to me, then that man will know that that prophet is in Israel. Okay, so we have some problems here. It changed. What we want is a prophet. So let's go down and see what we have there. Here's person, contextually near. So the analyzer was confused by we'll know that a person. It interpreted that as the contextually near marker, that person. That's not what we wanted. So I'm going to click on features, click on that person, put it first mention, and I'm for the participant tracking in the second column. And then in the proximity, the fourth column, you see down there it says contextually near is clicked. I'm going to click not applicable. It's not really necessary to fix this other one, but the analyzer usually makes it the same. I'm going to change that. Okay, so this was the same noun in the relative clause. Person that tells a story. So in English, you see, we don't say person that person tells the story. So that's not repeated. But just for consistency, I changed the feature of that one. Okay, hopefully that will fix this last problem. Then that man will know that that prophet is in Israel. It should come out a prophet. Let's work backwards. Send the man to me. That's good. Okay, we already know that we have a problem with the first sentence of the quote. But we checked the semantic representation. That's okay. Working backwards, then the second sentence says, then Elisha sent a message to that king. That's okay. The first sentence says, Elisha, who was God's man, heard that that king of Israel tore his clothes. Okay, we don't want that king of Israel. Again, it's confused because there are two ways in the phase one that I'm using that, and it really doesn't like it. It gets confused, and it thought that that was contextually near. So whenever we have the king of Israel, we don't want contextually near because it's explaining which king it is. I have the features button already clicked. I'm going to click on the king here, and I'm going to uncheck, or I'm going to check not applicable in the fourth column for proximity. So I get rid of that contextually near feature. Okay, let's look back at the generated analyzer language here. Elisha, who was God's man, heard that now it will be the king of Israel tore his clothes. Okay. We could change that to flashback, that he had torn his clothes. But I think past tense is okay here, so let's leave it the way it is. There's one thing here, it says, Elisha, who was. Now, right now it's a restrictive thing modifier, restrictive clause, but we know who Elisha is because we have his name. So that should be a descriptive clause modifier. I've already got features selected, so I can click on this clause boundary after Elisha. And I'm going to, in the first column, there's restrictive thing modifier that's checked. We want descriptive. So I'm going to click that. That will insert a comma. Should be Elisha, comma, who was God's man, or the man of God, better. Okay, so let's click Save Analysis. Now let's just do a quick run through of the other sentences. Elisha, descriptive thing modifier, who be equative, who was God's man, the man of God. I think maybe this is something I'm not sure about, but I'm going to do what my intuition says. Todd may want to change it later. I'm going to change it to social role because it's saying he's the man of God, and man of God has some implications about his being a representative of God. So I change it to from equative to social role. Okay, we have discourse here. Actually, I don't know whether that should be that way or present tense, which would get its time value from the main clause. But I'm going to leave it that way for now. Okay. This is generic genitive, that's appropriate. I'm going to change it to frame inferable for noun features. God's man. The fact that it's God's man shows which man he is or what type he is. Okay, here, so to hear that some event happened, that's what we want. That's the right version. That has an obligatory patient preposition, and that's in discourse time. Here's the patient preposition. The king of region of authority Israel tear something, the clothes owned by the king. Okay. We could do here realm of authority, which would have the nation as an argument, or we could do region of authority with the country. He's in the country now. Usually I do realm of authority. It's okay for me to leave it here as region, but we would have to change. So what I did is I clicked on census, the census button down at the bottom right, and then this Israel demand is not right. So I click on that, and then the pull down, the northern country, the land is sense E. Okay, he's the king in the land of Israel. Then Elisha, send should be discourse, yes. To send a letter, message, or a package to someone. First mention, a message is the patient argument and a destination argument to that king. That's fine. So it says routine, contextually near, that'll come out that. You can see that send, if I click, hover the mouse, has an obligatory patient, an obligatory destination. So we've got both of those here. I already talked about this sentence. That message said, okay, so we finished the sentence about not having to tear the clothes. Then there's a, oh, by the way, that is, That's independent, but the second one is imperative for a command. We had that marked. The first one was you don't have to, and the second one is do something. So if we hover over the second line under king, it says singular second person. That's what we want. You send. This says send a person or thing to do some task. The examples down at the bottom are God sent an angel. The Lord sent a person to a country. So I guess this is okay. Send. And that should be immediate future. That's good because he's telling him to do something. This man is the patient argument. And that is routine. Let's see, we had up at the English, send the man to me. So that's fine. Again, send has an optional destination. So here's the optional destination. Destination noun phrase. Elisha is first person. If you look down at about the 9th feature there, singular. So it should come out me. Then, in the last sentence, that's the temporal succession. That means it's the thing that happened next. Okay, this time, this man is routine contextually near. So then that man, know to be sure about something. Mary knew that John went to the library. Okay, that seems like the right one, and it has an obligatory patient proposition. Let me scroll down on the screen a little bit. So that's the right one we want, to know that something happened, and it's immediate future, that he will know at that time. Now, this probably wasn't, it's probably a day later or several days later, but I think from the perspective of Elisha, this is fine. He doesn't really know when it's going to happen. So we have the patient proposition. He will know that a person, okay, we already fixed that, a person who tells something to someone. Mary told a story. That sounds appropriate. Just to check, I've already got senses selected. Let's see what the options are. Okay, that's what we want. We want sense D, to tell something to someone. That's the only appropriate one. You can also say tell about someone, something. Okay, so this has a obligatory patient, an optional destination. So here's the patient, the messages of God. So that's correct. This is frameable, that's okay, and it's plural. You can see as the 4th feature. This has the optional destination argument. Tells messages to people. Now, that should be to people in general. And that people is a different people than know that a person there who tells stories. So what we should do is we should click on a new line in the thing list and click on this people here. We've made that generic plural. Okay, that's good. There's another place where we have a problem with the thing list. That is the word man, because in the beginning it said Elisha, who was the man of God, and then later Elisha said, send the man to me. So that's a different man. So down in the thing list, down at the bottom right, I click on line 10. This man is the man who's going to be sent. I click on that. And then I'm going to click over here later. Then that man will know. Okay, I'm going to click on Save Analysis. Okay, now let's switch languages to English. I don't know that it will fix that problem with negative must, but let's see by switching to English if it does. Okay, so we go to Utilities, Proposition Analysis. I clicked on Reference. I was in Mission Documents, so I'm going to Bible, then 2 Kings, chapter 5, verse 8. Okay, let's see what happens here when we click Generate. Normally I would just generate in the analyzer language, but because we had a specific problem, I want to see if that is a serious problem that exists in English. It should eventually get corrected for the analyzer language. And the way we wanted it to come out was do not have to. Okay, here we have the generated version in the bottom right. Elisha, who was the man of God. Okay, so see, in the analyzer language, it came out God's man. But here in English, it knows that we want man of God. Elisha, who was the man of God, heard that the king of Israel tore his clothes. Then Elisha sent a message to that king. That message said, "You must not have torn your clothes." Okay, so it came out better, but not exactly like we wanted. We want, you do not have to tear your clothes, or you did not have to tear your clothes. So this still needs some fixing. Send the man to me. Then that man will know that a person who is God's prophet is in Israel. Okay. That's interesting. So the literal was person who tells God's messages to people. So I thought it would change person who just changed the whole thing, person to prophet, that a prophet is in Israel. That means that the complex rule for prophet ought to be fixed up because it's not working quite right. Of course, this is totally understandable. A person who is God's prophet, we know, is a prophet. Okay, that's what we have.